Welcome to DU Digimon.
Hello and welcome to DU Digimon and welcome to another deck profile here on a Monday. We are now in the EX5 format, so this is our first deck profile for EX5. Super exciting stuff. If you do like this content and the rest of our content, please make sure to like and subscribe and ding that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of our content. There will also be a couple of links in the description down below to the playlists we've got for our matches and our deck profiles as well. But we're going to look at this deck profile today. Now, we did have a poll, which I'll put a flash of up on screen, a little while back to see what kind of decks you guys were interested in looking at EX5. Now, our winner was Grayson Overmon. Spoiler alert, that's not today. Dan's working on that deck for us. Thank you, Dan. But this one is the number 2 contender, the runner-up, if you will. And it is our good friend of the Royal Knight fame, Leopardmon. Specifically, this guy, Leopardmon X. Now, I was very tempted to build Leopardmon back in BT13, but I didn't open enough product of BT13 back when it came out. Just because I wanted to save up instead for BT14 at the time, because Greymon player, new Greymon stuff, you know, Stan. But for EX5, I wanted to try and give Leopardmon a go. No one else was building it down at the shop, so I figured, do you know what? I'll do it. I really like Leopardmon. I think he's cool. I seem to be getting a collection of green decks now, so just add to the collection. Nix a few little items from my previous green decks. Now, I'm not playing... there's kind of a bit of contention when it comes to Leopardmon. At the moment, I am not playing the version with the new Deva cards. I do want to try that out, give it a go, because these guys are surprisingly playable and searchable in this deck. But I wanted to try something else because I'm trying some little different kind of combinations and tech cards and stuff like that for the time being, just to have a bit of fun, really. But yeah, we're going to get into the profile now. So the first off, we start off with our 4 Digitamas, which are 4 copies of Torikara, who I always seem to struggle to say the name of. But essentially, when you play a green Digimon, this Digimon gets 2000 DP for the turn. We want loads of DP in this deck because it helps us with clearing security, it helps us with clearing Digimon. You know, it's really great little card from BT12. I actually don't know how much use it saw in BT12. I never saw anyone running this, but now Leopardmon's a thing. I think it's really good. You could also give... I think it's the BT14 Tanimon a go, as well, potentially, and then maybe the BT11 Tanimon, but I just find this guy's probably the best bet, just because, although those ones give you draw power, this one gives you the DP boost, and that's more important in terms of our general strategy. Next up, going into our rookies, we've got 4 copies of quite possibly the most important card in the deck, Salamon from BT13. Now, why is Salamon so important? Salamon is our main searcher to find a lot of our pieces. You reveal top 3 on play and add 1 Digimon card with Beast, Animal, or Sovereign other than Sea Animal in one of its traits, and 1 Digimon card with Royal Knight. And all of our top line is Royal Knights, including, well, I'm not going to say yet, but including something beyond Leopardmon. Maybe you guys can try and guess what that is in the run-up to that. But Salamon is the best searcher we've got. It searches the majority of our pieces. We are mostly, in this build, running beasts and animals and beastkin and all that sort of stuff. But you know, it's a really kind of cool card. Has a great inheritable as well. While this Digimon has Beast, Animal, or Sovereign other than Sea Animal in one of its traits, or the Royal Knight trait, it gets 2000 DP. Really, really cool card. Best searcher we've got available to us, for sure. Next up, 4 copies of EX2 Terriermon. So he's got a very simple effect, which helps kind of speed things up for us. When you play a green tamer, gain 1 memory, which is cool. We do have green tamers. One of our tamers is not green. Spoilers. It's a little card I'm trying. I don't know if I'm going to keep it, but we're going to see. And also, when an opponent's Digimon becomes suspended, this Digimon gets 2000 DP for the turn, so it's another DP boost. We want to keep getting that DP. It's just what we want to do. We want to keep beating stuff over. We want to keep being as big as possible when we're on the offensive. Next up, 2 copies of BT2 Terriermon. Nice little floodgate to stop our opponent from gaining memory. Really good against certain decks that want to gain memory from their Digimon and from certain option cards and stuff like that. And it's another Terriermon name, which is quite important for one of our champions coming up. Yeah, really good little card. You know, you wanna make sure you've got this guy to hand against any of those kind of more specific decks. You know, you could also try Pomumon as well, to kind of have a different kind of floodgate available to you. But the difference here is that Terriermon is a beast, so therefore he's searchable off of Salamon, which is great stuff. Last rookie, 2 copies of BT11 Ogumon. He on play. Now, as people know from watching these videos, if you have been watching, I have got beef with this card. I think it should search a Tyrannomon in name for the Tyrannomon deck, but for the purposes of Leopardmon, where we don't care about other things like that, adding a tamer, any colour tamer, might I add, after you reveal your top 4 is really cool. And again, whilst you have a tamer of any colour in play, this Digimon gets 2000 DP. So again, really good kind of for that DP boosting, making us as big as possible. Going into our champions now. 3 copies of Mikemon, or who we colloquially known as Mike Mon, down at the shop. Good old Mike. So on play, he has one of your Digimon gains piercing for the turn, which is pretty cool, because it means if you are suspending an opponent's Digimon, you can then beat it over and do some damage to the security. And again, he gives a DP boost as is inheritable to any beast, animal, sovereign, or royal knight that he is under. So really cool card. 4 play cost as well, which is quite important for one of our level 6 effects. You know, great little card. Next up, 3 copies of Black Gargomon from EX4. Again, Beastkin, so it is, I believe, searchable as a Beastkin. Anyone can correct me on this. This is a bit of a deck in progress, but I think because Beastkin contains Beast, it is searchable. Anyone feel free to let me know otherwise. But in general, still, great card, even if it wasn't searchable. Has Alliance, which gives it security attack +1 and a DP boost based on what it suspends as it attacks. And again, it's another DP boosting inheritable as well, getting 2000 when an effect suspends another Digimon. Really cool. 4 play cost again, which is very important for one of our level 6 plays. You know, and because of that security attack +1, this can be really good for aggression. You know, if we play it out and if it gains rush, spoilers, there's something that's going to give stuff rush in this deck. You know, this is potentially a really good kind of damager at a very cheap cost. Next up, 2 copies of regular Gargomon from EX2. Now, this is actually a new addition to the deck that I wanted to try out and have not actually tested yet. But in theory, it works really well. Beastkin, so along that level of Beastkin, are they searchable, are they not? Again, feel free to let me know if it's not, but I'm fairly sure it is as a Beastkin, because it does contain Beast within the trait. But when this Digimon with Digivolve, if you have a green tamer in play, reduce the Digivolution cost by 1, so really cool. And then again, when the opponent's Digimon becomes suspended, Digimon gets 2000 TP, another big booster that helps us go up into other things more cheaply. Then last 2 copies of BT11 Tyrannomon. Now this and the Gargomon are 5 cost, which is not as good for some of our purposes, but we can still reduce them by 4 by one of our level 6 effects, so that's not too bad. And the Tyrannomon helps us play any tamer with a play cost of 3 or less from our hand without playing the cost, which is 4 out of the 6 tamers we're running. I do kind of want to try and increase our tamer count, but at the moment, deck space is tight, honestly. Anyone got any suggestions for me down in the comments, feel free. These deck profiles are as much me putting my ideas onto the internet, and likewise for the rest of us on the channel, putting our ideas onto the internet and giving guides out, as well as also potential opportunities for us to learn from you guys. So do please let us know in the comments, you know, with any of the decks, what kind of things you guys might do differently as we go forward. But Tyrannomon, really good. Again, another DP booster as well. Literally all of our champions give boosts, as well as almost all of our rookies. Next up, 3 copies going into the ultimates now, so level 5s. 3 copies of Mihiramon from BT13. On play, which is 7 costs. You might be thinking, oh, that's kind of bad. But actually, it's not that bad if once we get to our level 6 line. Suspend one of your opponent's Digimon with 7,000 DP or less. Then, until the end of your opponent's turn, one of your opponent's Digimon doesn't unsuspend. So that second effect, it doesn't have to be applied to the Digimon that was suspended. So you can potentially apply it to a much stronger Digimon that is already suspended. So, bear that in mind when you play this. Also, when this Digimon would Digivolve, reduce the Digivolution cost by 1. And you might be thinking on a level 5, well, that's kind of naff, because you're not going to really reduce much else. But it helps us reduce any level 6s that Digivolve on top of level 6s, and also our level 7 as well. So, really good stuff from Mihiramon. Next up, this guy unfortunately does not have it on play, but I think running this guy at 3 is fairly mandatory in this particular kind of build. But we've got 3 copies of BT14 Panyamon. Now he is great because when Digivolving, he can play out a green or blue tamer. Not that we're playing blue tamers, but card with a play cost of 4 or less from your hand without paying the cost, which obviously is great. Give us more tamers. Memory tamers a lot of the time end up being 4 costs, so really good. Then, as the inheritable, when you play another Digimon by effect, one of your Digimon gains Rush for the turn, which is really, really good. Giving Rush to anything is really good, especially when we've got stuff like the Black Gargamon we discussed earlier. It's just brilliant, having that ability to give Rush. Then, trying this out, I don't see this very commonly in a lot of builds, but I wanted to try it out. 2 copies of the new promo Bastamon. So all turns when this Digimon becomes suspended, and that's through any means, whether it be an effect or it's attacking or whatever, you then suspend one of your opponent's Digimon, which is great because if we've got Piercing available to us, we're automatically being able to suspend something because she gets suspended. And then same inheritable as Mihiramon, when this Digimon would Digivolve, reduce the Digivolution cost by 1. So really good to speed up into some of our level 6s as well as our level 7s. And I wanted to try her out. I think a lot of us were not that bowled over by this promo in comparison to others that came out from EX5, but I like her. I like the cut of her jib. I think she's alright. Then going into our level 6s, the first one is going to be 3 copies of BT13 Leopardmon, so one of the stars of the show. So when Digivolving and a main effect, so you can keep doing it whilst you're still on field, you may play 1 green or Royal Knight trait Digimon card from your hand for the cost. When it would be played by this effect, reduce the play cost by 4. And this is what I mean earlier. So all of our rookies are below 4 cost. Most of our champions are below 4 cost. So you can just play them out for free, which is fantastic. And then if you've got Panyamon underneath, give them Rush. Pretty good. Also, when you play another Digimon, all of your green and or Royal Knight Digimon trait Digimon gain blocker until the end of your opponent's turn. So potentially, you can fill up your board and have just loads of blockers. Like, loads. Absolutely loads. As well as potentially giving Rush thanks to the Panyamon effect, and if you actually used the Black Gargamon to suspend your Leopardmon, you get 11k as a boost, which is pretty good, So I really like Leopardmon. Really cool card. We've then got 1 copy of Leopardmon Leopard Mode. So this just increases our Royal Knight count, which is very important for our level 7 slot. Again, feel free to guess before he gets revealed, guys. Then, when Digivolving, suspend one of your opponent's Digimon until the end of your opponent's turn. One of your opponent's Digimon doesn't unsuspend. So you get to suspend and choose something to not unsuspend at all. It's 4 cost if you do it on top of any level 5, but only 1 cost if you play on top of Leopardmon. So with the Bastamon and the Mihiramon effects, you can just go up into him for free. Also, when attacking, by suspending one of your other Digimon, unsuspend this Digimon. And really importantly, that's not once per turn. So potentially, this guy could be your game finisher if you have enough stuff on board. And the reason we've got him at 1, though, is just because, that we don't always have that capacity to have all of those Digimon to unsuspend. We can do. We absolutely can do if we have enough turns. But it's not as important. But he does increase our Royal Knight count. Also, end of turn, trash the top card of this Digimon and suspend all of your other Digimon. So, really cool. Because if you've given everything blocker with Leopardmon, you do all of your swings with this guy, then at the end of the turn, trash him, everything else on your board unsuspends. So you've got a wall of blockers, potentially, to protect you. Really cool card. May try and increase it to 2, but I think I'm happy with it at 1 at the moment, just because of how impressed I am with the new boy on the block from EX5, Leopardmon X. Testing this guy out the other day, I love this card. He is so friggin' cool. So he digivolves off of a level 6 with Leopardmon in its name without X antibody trait for a cost of 1. So that's all 4 of these guys it can digivolve on top of. And again, cost of 1, we can reduce the cost by 1, so potentially still going into it for free. When digivolving in main, just like the original Leopardmon, you may play 1 green Digimon card from your hand with the cost reduced by 4. But if a card with Leopardmon in its name or X antibody is in this Digimon's Digivolution card, further reduce that by 3. So that suddenly means that all of our level 5s, which are all play cost of 7, can be played out for free as well. And again, potentially given Rush. Really cool. And then what he does as well is when one of your Digimon is played, you may return one of your opponent's 5,000 DP or lower Digimon to the hand. And for each of your other Digimon, increase that by 3,000. So even if you've got one Digimon out, you can suddenly increase that to returning an 8,000. One more, increase to 11. One more, 14. And so on and so on. It's really, really cool for that kind of... for that protection. Obviously, he's not as aggressive as the Leopard mode, but in terms of controlling the board, he is phenomenally good. He can just empty the board, and then when you're ready, if you've got Leopard mode in hand, you can go for it. And otherwise, you could go into our level 7 to start being somewhat aggressive. Now, you're looking at this and going green Digimon. Obviously, if you've guessed by now, well done. But most green decks will go straight in for Quartzmon. Probably like 2 copies of it. And I can absolutely see why. Quartzmon is a disgustingly powerful card. I use it myself in Tyrannomon. I may end up using it in this as well. However, I wanted to have a bit of fun. And at the moment, I've only got 1 copy of him. But we've got Jesmon GX from BT10. Now, you're looking at him and going, hang on, he's red-black. Hang on, he's Jesmon. What's he doing here? Well, he actually digivolves for 5 from a level 6 with Royal Knight in its traits. So that is all of these guys, because they've all got Royal Knight in their traits, digivolves on top of those for 5. And again, we can reduce that cost by 4. We've got other cards to potentially reduce the digivolution as well. You know, really, really cool card. When digivolving as well, you may place 1 card with Royal Knight in its traits and a play cost of 13 or less from your hand or trash under this Digimon as its bottom digivolution card. And then you activate one of the when digivolving effects. So that means if you add any of these underneath, you could potentially be playing out something with 4 cost. You could be suspending one of your opponent's Digimon, and then one of them doesn't unsuspend. You could be playing a play cost of 4, and potentially, if you've got something else in the sources, increase that to 7. Really cool. Obviously, he doesn't get the Your Turns effects of the Leopardmons, just the when digivolving effect. But what he does get, once he's done all of that, is all turns when a card with Royal Knight in its traits is in this Digimon's Digivolution cards, this Digimon gains Piercing and Blocker and gains Security attack for each such card. So potentially, if you've added, you know, if you've digivolved on top of, say, the Leopardmon, you've added the Leopardmon X, you've got Security attack +2. If you've digivolved on top of the Leopardmon X and added in the Leopard mode, you've got Security attack +3. And you've got Blitz. And you've got Piercing. And potentially you've suspended stuff. I think it's a really fun tech choice in this deck. I don't think it's the best, if I was being honest. Quartzmon probably is definitively the better level 7. Especially if we play more copies of Agility Training, makes him more searchable, yada 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 yada. But I wanted to have some fun, so Jesmon GX. And at some point I will be getting a second copy of him. But at the moment I've only got the 1, so we're just trying him out. So if and when I get a second copy though, you'll very much see that on the channel. And I think it's just a really fun inclusion, you know. And again, he is a Royal Knight, so Salamon can actually search him, which is really cool, you know. We've also got 1 other potential card to search him because this guy has X antibody in the traits, and that is one of our tamers, but we're going to get into those tamers now. Next up, 2 copies of Tiger from BT11, gives all of our Digimon 1000 DP, and then when one of your green Digimon would digivolve into a level 5 or higher, by suspending this tamer, reduce the cost by 1. So specifically, it's if your Digimon is green, and then it evolves into something. It doesn't have to be something green digivolving into something green. It could be something green digivolving into anything. So we can reduce the cost of Jesmon GX even further, which I think is really cool. I would personally love to try and put more copies of Tiger in. I may swap out 2 copies of one of our other tamers for 2 copies of this to go up to 4, but it may get rid of our search. It's a work in progress. You know, let me know what you guys think in the comments, guys. You know, I think I am more than happy to get some help on this one. I do not mind at all. But I think there's some great ideas with this deck. Next one. 2 copies of Mimi from BT1, the de facto best green tamer there is. If you have 2 or less, set to 3. If you have a level 5 or higher green Digimon in play, you can suspend this tamer to hatch 1 Digi-Egg to an empty space in your breeding area, or move 1 level 3 or higher Digimon from your breeding area to the battle area. So helps us speed things up, move things out. You know, just a really cool card. You know, you need a memory tamer, guys, and Mimi is by far the best one. Next up, got 2 copies of our third tamer, and he's a bit of a controversial choice, I think, in this. Cool Boy. Now, you may be thinking, Josh, what are you doing, mate? Because he doesn't search a whole lot, and that's true. He doesn't. He only searches our Leopardmon X's. He only searches the Jesmon GX, which will be even more important for this to go up to 2. And he only searches X antibodies, but it does work well enough. He's less than 3 costs, so the Tyrannomon can play him out for free. So I think it's an interesting inclusion, especially again when we've got the second copy of Jesmon GX. I think it could do some work. Obviously, it helps you gain a memory and a draw as well when you digivolve into something at the same level, which we're doing a lot with the Leopardmon X antibody, for example. So yeah, I think it's a cool inclusion. I may swap him out for another 2 copies of Tiger, just to have that further digivolution cost reduction. But I think with this whole Jesmon GX angle that I wanted to go with, I think he is quite important, and he has searched off the Jesmon GX, and will do even better at that when I've got 2 copies of him. But you know, for the time being, it's an interesting inclusion. And again, he's searchable off of Agumon, because searches any tamer of any colour. So yeah, I think it's a cool inclusion. And again, helps us search X antibody stuff, which is important. Though admittedly, currently, not the right X antibody stuff. I'll explain. But going into our options now, 2 copies of Agility Training. This helps search all of our green stuff, which only 5 cards currently, soon to be 6 cards in the deck, are not green. So it does do a great job at searching things out. Also helps to reduce digivolution cost when we would digivolve into a green Digimon. So unfortunately this doesn't work with just one GX, but it does work for the stages before. So retrospectively, still helps us go into things cheaper. You know, trainings are a mandatory. I normally have like 4 copies in like every deck I've got now, but space was becoming tight in this deck, so just 2. Next up, 2 copies of X Antibody. Now, this at the moment is kind of a placeholder. It does help us with triggering Leopardmon X's effects and stuff like that, but we're not always kind of digivolving when we're attacking. We could do, because like, for example, if we've managed to go into Leopard mode, he's got the when attacking effect, so you could when attack, suspend something to unsuspend, trigger X antibody, digivolve into Leopardmon X. That's entirely possible. However, I really want to replace this with the new X antibody protoform, which unfortunately I have no copies of at this time, because barely any of us pulled any of them down the shop, including people that like they opened like 3 or 4 boxes and they didn't get many of them at all. That's what happens when our options are SR. So Bandai, help us out, help a brother out. You know, for now, this X antibody works fine. You know, it does help us with those kind of effects as I mentioned. You know, but the protoform will ultimately, I think, be the better choice, just because it, again, helps us reduce things by 1, which is important for the Leopardmon X, for example, you know. So, for now, this is what we've got, but I would very much like to try the protoform in this build instead. Next up, we've got 1 copy of Hidden Potential Discovered. Obviously, it's green, and we can search it with Agility Training, potentially. It is a one-off, because it is, like, you know, it is on the limited list. But, again, we can use this to help go into Jesmon GX for a lot cheaper, because Jesmon digivolves off a Royal Knight for 5, and Hidden Potential Discovered, the next time one of your green Digimon digivolves, and again, it's green Digimon digivolving, not when your Digimon digivolves into a green Digimon. Very important distinction. you may suspend one of your Digimon to reduce the memory cost of the Digivolution by 5. So we use this, we can go into any of our Digimon for free, which is brilliant. If we can do that with going into GS1 GX, even better. Obviously, don't rely on that strategy because this is a one-of. It's not particularly searchable. If it's in security, we can add it to hand, which is great. But, you know, that is, you know, still a really good part of the strategy. And then our last card is 1 copy of Grandel's Soul. This may very well be what I swap out for another copy of GS1 GX, but at the same time, this is also really important removal. And I realised how important that is last week because I went up against Fanglongmon. And Fanglongmon, of course, is immune to Leopardmon X's effects, but not immune to Grandel's Soul. So very much, I'm thinking about keeping this in, possibly even increasing its 2 copies, if I can. I really need to stop hitting my mouse. But, oh well. But yeah, so it does work really well. A lot of the time we do have more than 2 Digimon out, and a lot of the time they will be suspended for one reason or another. So we can reduce the cost of this by 2. To then suspend one of the opponent's Digimon and return something to the bottom of the deck, which, you know, is one of the best forms of removal in the game currently. Really cool card, definitely looking at potentially increasing it. But at the same time, I want to try and get that second copy of GS1 GX, so a lot of balancing is going to be involved. But I'm going to say, let's go and do a test hand now. We've not done a test hand with the deck profile for a while, so let's get things sorted, go for a test hand, and see what this deck can do. Right, so we've got everything all set up. We're going to go ahead and go first. So we're going to hatch over here, go 0 into Salamon, get our draw for the Digivolve, and then we are going to go ahead and go 2 into Cool Boy, and we're going to go 1, 2, 3. We get to add Leopardmon X. Everything else goes to the bottom. Past turn, let's say they've left us on 1. We're going to go draw. We shall then go ahead and go 2 into Mikemon. Draw. Very cool. Let's say they've left us on 2 now. Draw for turn. We're going to go 2 into Agility Training. Go on 0. Build up 2. 1, 2. We're going to choose to add the Leopardmon. And then for 3, we're going to go into Terriermon. Let's say they've left us on 1 again. Draw. We're going to go ahead and go... we'll swing with the Terriermon, so get just a little check there. And go 3 into Agumon. 1, 2, 3, 4. Unfortunate whiff. That's okay. Doing a bit of deck thinning. Then, so they left us on 2. I'm going to draw. That's pretty good. So we're going to go ahead and move on up with Mikemon. I'm going to reduce cost of the Digivolution by 2 to go into Panyamon for 1. Draw. Unfortunately, we've got no targets for our when Digivolving effect, so very much might be thinking about increasing those tamers, but we'll see. We're then going to go ahead and go... let's go for 3 into our Leopardmon. Draw. Leopardmon then allows us to play out something with a play cost of 4 or less, with a reduced cost of 4, so we're going to play out the Black Gargamon. It does gain Rush from the Panyamon effect, but obviously we've passed turn, so won't be doing that. But all of our stuff does get Blocker, so we've got a bit of a defensive wall now. Draw. Hatch over here. We are then going to go... so they leave us on 2 again. We'll go 1 into Leopardmon X. Draw. Cool Boy to gain a memory and draw. Then, because we've done that, we get to, when Digivolve, play out something with a play cost of 7. We will play out the Mahiramon, so that gives us Rush on this one. We're then going to go ahead, this will suspend one of their Digimon as well, which is very cool. They've got 4 security remaining at this point. So we will go ahead and Black Gargomon. So obviously we've also managed to do the bounce as well. And bearing in mind, sorry, skipping ahead. New deck, guys. We are, so because we can bounce something with 5,000 DP or less, we have 1, 2, 3, so we can increase that by 9k. So we can return something up to 14,000, which is really cool. We're then going to go Black Gargomon, suspending Leopardmon X, so that we get security set +1, and we've got the DP from this. So because we played out something, it's gained 2,000. Because it's a Royal Knight, it gains 2,000. Because it's a Meek, because of the Royal Knight, it gains 2,000. So this is actually on 18k, meaning Black Gargomon is currently attacking into security for 2 checks on 22k, which is pretty good. 2 checks there. So that takes them down to 3. We then might as well go in with... Actually, we're not going to go in with the Mahiromon. We'll go in with the Ogumon, just getting up an extra check. It would probably die in this case. And then we're going to go into Leopardmon here for 3. Draw. We then get to play out something with a reduced cost. So we are going to play Salamon for the reduced cost of 4. On play search, 1, 2, 3. We get to add Jesmon GX. Hell yeah. And they are on 1. Let's then go ahead and put us to 2. Unsuspend everything. So we don't have anything to Digivolve over here, but we've got lots of really cool stuff. We've got our main effects of these 2. So for reduced cost of 7 over here, we're going to go into Panyamon. It gains Rush. Really, really cool. We then get to bounce something. Everything also gains Blocker. They have got 2 security remaining. We will then, as much as I would love to go into my Jesmon GX here, and to be fair, there's still potential that we could. Let's go Black Gargomon. We're going to suspend our... Let's go suspend our Leopardmon X. So we gain all of that 18k. Last 2 checks done. And then we could very well finish the game with any of these guys. But let's do something cool. Let's go into Jesmon GX for 5. Draw. So he lets us put a Royal Knight from our hand or trash underneath him. We're going to put Leopardmon underneath. He then gets to do Leopardmon's effects to play something out for a reduced cost of 4. Let's go ahead and play out Tyrannomon for 1. We've now got Blitz, security attack +2 from the Leopardmons, not that we necessarily need that. And with that Blitz, swing for game with Jesmon GX. I think this deck has a lot of potential. Definitely still got some little teething errors to kind of figure out. And obviously in this kind of test case scenario, we don't have another player going up against us. But I think this has got some potential. Adding a second copy of this deck could be very explosive. But let me know what you think, guys. Obviously, Quartzmon probably is the better choice, so feel free to let me know if you do agree with that. As well as also let me know of any other kind of things you might change with the deck. You know, is this more fun way of doing it, you know, up your alley, or would you prefer to maybe go the Deva route, or you know, see how things go. Obviously, if I've got anything wrong with rulings, let me know that as well. I'm more than happy to be corrected there. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. But until next time, keep it digital.